First of all, can you describe your business in one sentence?
Yes, Frugl is the only events discovery app that helps people on a budget find affordable things to do in London.
Great, good elevator pitch. So, do you want to, in more than one sentence, do you want to tell me about the journey? How did you come up with the idea?
Actually, I've always been a bit of a bargain hunter, so I think like most startups, it's a passion of mine. And I found as the internet grew bigger and bigger, finding things to do that didn't cost a fortune became more and more challenging. And that was the problem I was attempting to solve, is how could you find those kind of under the radar gems that go on all over London without having to search for hours for them.
So how did you turn that then into that idea into an actual business?
Through a lot of effort. We started off kind of doing doing it as a web-based app and literally searching all over and retyping stuff as we found it. And then we got a small innovation voucher from the Technology Strategy Development Board in October of last year, and that allowed us to build a system that basically curated all that content that we had been going to find for us, filtered out anything that was over £10, and we now then clean that up and push it out onto what became the app.
So what have been the key challenges so far, and how have you overcome them?
Figuring out how to do it was one, because we knew how time consuming it was, and we needed to break that down into the component parts and figure out how to make that really efficient. Finding developers, it was a nightmare. That I think is the biggest challenge for any startup, especially in London. It's just so difficult to find good people when you don't have massive budgets, because there's so many people now that do have massive budgets, and all of those developers are just going to those places. So that's been really the hardest part.
So how did you find the developers?
Well, eventually through word of mouth. It was just luck. I mean, we interviewed about 5 different agencies and different people, and then eventually we settled on a few boys that had literally just graduated from university and were really keen to do the job, and we just decided to go for it. Not knowing really whether or not they could do it, but we just thought, well, you know what, they seem like they could do it, and they're talking a good game, so let's give them a try.
What about funding? The key thing. How have you funded it?
Aside from that voucher, we've been completely self-funded. I sold a property that I owned a year ago when my kids went to university, downsized, and so I'm putting all my own money into it.
Are you looking? Do you think you'll take on external investors at any point? Or?
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely take on investors. At the moment, we've got a startup loan that we've just been granted from the government, so that's going to allow us to bootstrap on a revenue stream for us, because we're pre-revenue at the moment, and then we're looking for investment. We've been talking to investors for a while, and there's quite a few, but they want to see that we can actually generate some significant revenue, or some revenue.
That helps. What about marketing? Maybe you're not in that phase yet, but how do you maybe plan your market? How do you plan to market?
Well, my background is for 20 years I was a PR director, and I ran quite a successful PR business, so the marketing end of things is the easy bit for me, at least when it comes to kind of traditional PR. I've been very lucky. I've obviously got a big database of contacts working in the media that I've called upon to help, and we've got some decent coverage. We've been in Metro, the Evening Standard, the Mail on Sunday. We were in the Sun this past weekend. So that's how we're generating our user acquisition at the moment. It's not costing us anything except for my time.
Has it worked? Because I was intrigued on that. Have you seen direct benefits from that sort of PR too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really interesting to see, having been in PR for so long, what actually converts and what doesn't make so much of an impact. Some of the stuff you think is going out to big numbers doesn't make such an impact as some of the more niche areas that I've gone to that have made significant spikes in the user acquisition. So yeah, I mean, I've been able to really track that closely and see what works. But yeah, it definitely works.
It's still quite early, but the classic question: if you started again, what would you do differently?
Oh God, that's a really good one. I wasted about a year doing all sorts of bits of development that weren't really effective. So I probably would have spent more time thinking about that rather than being so impulsive and just going for something because it was kind of cheap or an easy fix. And actually thinking more about the solution, and probably I might have thought about the revenue stream and how we were going to make that work as part of the process. I was thinking about it, but I was thinking more about, okay, you know what, just let's get the users to this thing, and then we'll bolt on that revenue stream a bit later. The UK doesn't really work like that. It's not Silicon Valley, so I kind of very quickly realized through an Accelerator Academy program that I went on that kind of thinking wasn't going to cut it here.
Brilliant. And just finally, based on your experiences so far, maybe with the previous business or this business, what couple of tips would you give to other entrepreneurs?
Definitely use your network of contacts as much as you can. There's loads of networking events that happen all over the country, but especially in London, for startups, for investment, for funding, for SCIS schemes, all sorts of stuff. I would go to as many of those as you possibly can. They're usually free, and you never know who you're going to meet there. I've met loads of people. Don't start with too big an idea. Keep it really small and manageable. And if you can, as lean as you possibly can. I think a lot of startups make the mistake of thinking, oh, we need loads of advertising. Oh, we need loads of this. And they blow their budget very quickly. And I've always been about lean bootstrapping, as they say.